So as we told in the previous class, characteristics of an algorithm, we should clearly mention what is our expected input for the algorithm to run properly and give the expected output. So this is the output you will be getting if you are giving this input. That has to be mentioned. Now each step in the algorithm should be clear. If you have any problem in if all are facing the same problem, I'll just see my internet issue. Now I think everyone is able to see. So here the next step is each step in the algorithm should be clear and it should not create any confusion, right? For all the set of numbers, suppose I have a problem like sorting the numbers in ascending order. That is my problem. So you have many different methods for sorting the numbers. My aim should be to bring the smallest number to the beginning and the highest number to the right end. So smallest number to the left end and highest number to the right end. In order to solve such a problem for a set of numbers, you can make use of any of the sorting methods. You can either take the smallest of all the 10 numbers and shift one by one and bring it to the beginning, or you can take the largest one out of that set of numbers and take it to the end. Always take the second largest, third largest, fourth largest, fifth largest. Like that you will get all the numbers sorted, right? So in computer programs, we have many sorting techniques like insertion sort, selection sort, quick sort, merge sort. All are for one purpose, that is the problem of solving the problem of sorting the elements in ascending order. So for each, you should be clearly mentioning the steps and it should be unambiguous. Unambiguous word, if you are not getting, you can mention clear and it should not lead to confusion. Algorithm should be most effective. I told the most effective algorithm is that which take less time and less space to execute. Got it? If you have any doubts, you can ask in the chat box. Gagan? Okay. And now when I'm telling...
Screen is not clear, ma'am.
Okay, screen is...
Yeah, ma'am. Black boxes are there. Square boxes.
Okay, I'll try to...
Ma'am.
I think so for everyone, same problem, ma'am.
Okay.
Now it's clear, ma'am.
Clear now? Maybe that connection where I'm sitting. Your Wi-Fi connection. Okay.
Now it's clear, ma'am.
Okay. Now you can mute yourself and then listen. Tell me, any other problem? Now it's okay, right? Okay. So listen carefully.
Yeah. Again, ma'am.
Again going.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you can mute yourself. 1 second. Yesterday the problem was there or today only?
Ma'am, now it's clear, ma'am.
Clear, no? Okay. Okay, so now we'll continue that algorithm should be most effective among the different ways to solve the problem. I told you there for sorting problem itself, if you take, there are more than 8 sorting methods. So among those, the most effective method you will be choosing, or we will be calculating the time taken and the space required for the execution of each of these problems, now each of these solutions or each of these algorithms, and we will find the most effective. We should be thinking of the time and the space required in order to execute a problem. When you are thinking of a small set of 10 numbers to get it sorted, it's okay. But if you are taking lakhs of, suppose your information about other details and all, you will be keeping it in big servers there in order to sort the numbers. or in your Google search, whatever searching algorithm we are using, it should be the most efficient method to give you the result in that shortest time, right? So the algorithms what each one is discovering or you are finding, it should be the most optimized way or the most effective method in order to give the solution to the problem. An algorithm should be written in such a way that it can be used for similar programming languages. So if we are not writing algorithm based on C programming language, we are not writing any of the algorithm taking the keywords from any of the programming language. It should be an algorithm which can be converted to any of the similar programming languages. We should be able to convert into, if you are writing an algorithm for a procedural programming language, any of the, so if you are not following the object-oriented concept, any of the programming language we are using this same algorithm, we should be able to convert. So we will not be writing an algorithm to any specific programming language. We should be able to convert this algorithm to any of the programming language. An algorithm should work for all the instances of the problem. So if my problem is to sort 10 numbers, once if I give the numbers like 9876543, it is working. But the same sorting algorithm, if it is not working for 19, 18, 20, 20, 32 and all, no, then your algorithm is not working. It should be working for all instances, means for all the same examples or for all the inputs what we are giving. For the first time when I'm running the algorithm which is converted into a program with the 10 numbers, if it is working, and for the second time when I'm running it for another set of numbers, that 20 numbers, if it is not working, then your algorithm is wrong. Got it? It should be working for all instances of the problem of the class. What is our problem? For example, if I am taking the problem as sorting of 10 numbers, that is my problem, right? It should be working fine for all the set of 10 numbers, or if it should be even, we are not limiting the number of inputs. If you can, you should be able to sort the numbers for any set of inputs and for any number of inputs. Okay, so these are the characteristics of an algorithm. So this is a sure question. So it will be asking like it will be asking the characteristics of an algorithm and also the definition of an algorithm. So these are the points which you should be mentioning. Almost all university question paper, it used to be there. Input and output should be defined precisely. Each step, it should be clear and unambiguous. Algorithm should be most effective. An algorithm should be written in such a way that it can be easily converted to any of the programming languages. It is not used taking the keywords of any programming language, but we should be able to convert into either C programming language or Java programming language or Python programming language. Got it? An algorithm should work for all the instances of the problems of the class. So now onwards, if you are finding any net issue at home, I'll make sure from my side it is clear. And after that, from your side, if you are having, then you have to attend the video and then answer a test. Then only you will be given attendance. Got it? So every day, if you are having problem, then you have to change the provider, service provider. If you are using Airtel, if you are not having connection in your area, you have to change the service provider. Okay. So then one more thing is sometimes from your firewall, it will be blocking. So you have to enable it, or any of your antivirus software will be blocking. So you have to disable it while running the or while watching the classes. Okay. Now the next topic is flowchart. Flowchart, as you know, it is the graphical representation. You will be seeing in this, the upcoming slides. It is nothing but the graphical, pictorial representation of algorithm. We just now saw the algorithm is step of instructions, right? Now, what is flowchart? Flowchart is a pictorial representation, or in the form of a step-by-step picture or graphical representation. We will be representing the sequence of operations which are there in our algorithm. So flowchart shows the sequence of instructions or sequence of operations for solving a problem which we already wrote in the form of an algorithm. A flowchart shows the logic of an algorithm, the flow of that algorithm or the logic of an algorithm, and emphasize individual steps and their interconnections. How each step is related, we can easily visualize using a flowchart. There are different symbols which are used in order to draw a flow chart. So each symbol has different meaning. So the symbols which are used in the flow chart are, we will be making use of a terminal symbol which will be used at the beginning and at the end of the flow chart. We will be making flow lines to connect to the different symbols. We will be making use of a process box in order to show the execution or calculation, assignment, and what else, any other operations which are done in each step. We will be making use of a decision box to get to change the flow of control, so this decision box will decide whether we have to, based on the condition which we have mentioned in the decision box, whether it has to take a right path or the left path. So decision box, I'll explain in the upcoming slides. It will have one input while decision box will have two outputs. So another symbol which is used is input box or an output box, which is nothing but a parallelogram, and a connector which is used in order to link between two flowcharts, which cannot be fitted in a single sheet. So in case your flowchart is very lengthy and if you can't fit in one page, you can always use a connector. And also if you have some sub functions, you can always connect it wherever required. So these are the essential or the basic symbols which are used in the flowchart. Of course, if you are referring internet, you will be seeing certain softwares which are always which are used for drawing the flowchart, and we will see one of the flowchart drawing software. In that, we will be. You can see there are many other symbols also, and the symbols which we are learning in this slide, like there will be difference if you refer internet, but we will follow the basic ones which are given in our syllabus. So the terminal symbol is usually indicated by a rounded rectangle. It is indicated by a rounded rectangle. So when I'm asking, you should be giving answer in the chat box. It is indicated by a rounded rectangle. Now the terminal symbol indicates the beginning and the ending of the program. Terminal indicates the beginning and ending of the program. They usually contain either start and end or start and stop. Either end or stop you can use. So starting and ending of the process is indicated by the terminal box, and it is nothing but a rounded fillet rectangle. I'll just share the link for the attendance because in between many of you are just moving. I could see only 63 participants now. Give attendance now itself. I'll be blocking it after that. Give attendance now. Okay, so we'll continue. Okay. Period number and all, it's okay. You can mention anything, no problem. For that, you need not give attendance once again. Okay. So we'll be using a terminal symbol, which is nothing but a rounded rectangle to show the beginning and ending of the program. Okay. Hope everyone has given the attendance. Don't think that this is lab hour. I'll be marking attendance for, you know, right? I will be marking attendance for theory. Okay. Oof. Using this link itself, we have to give because it's lab lab hour 2. Okay. I could see only 61%. I stopped accepting. Okay. Now we'll continue. As I told, algorithm, now this flowchart will be starting and ending with a terminal symbol. And then the next symbol what we have to study is the flow line. So flow line will be the shows the order of operation of the process. So wherever this flow line is taking, to whichever symbol the flow line is taking, indicates the order of operation of the process or the algorithm. So a line is coming from one symbol and it's pointing to the another symbol. So now, so this flow line is nothing but an arrow which will be connecting two symbols together, one, and it shows the order of operation of the process. Is it clear? Okay. So now we'll move on to the next topic, that is the next symbol, which is process symbol. Process symbol is indicated by a rectangle. Process symbol is indicated by a rectangle, and here the it is used to show the calculations involving the expressions. It is this symbol is used to show the calculations and also the assignment statements. How we are giving the assignment statement? Any statement which is having an equal to will be assigning the value from the right hand side to the left hand side variable. An expression. What is an expression? Expression is a set of variables connected by an operator. Operators can be plus, minus, addition symbols. You know, all those operators can come in between. Logical operators, any set of variables connected by, or operands. We will tell it as operand and operators, right? If you write a plus b or 1 plus 2, what are the operands and what are the operators? Tell me, answer in the chat box. Here, which is the operand and which is the operator in 1 plus 2? Operand. Operands are messaging or what? Okay. Oh, operands are 1 and 2, and operator will be plus sign, right? So we will be able to write an expression which is a combination of operands and operator. So operand and operator will make up an expression. So in process box, which is a rectangle box, we will be indicating the expressions and also the assignment statements. And next symbol is input box or output box. So what is input? Input is that which you are getting from the standard keyboard. So whatever the user is entering, we'll be taking it as a input, and output will be something which is printed onto the monitor, right? So for that, we will be making use of a symbol, which is nothing but a parallelogram. So in parallelogram, if you are referring or if you are writing the input and output, so both we will be using the same parallelogram symbol, either to get an input or to show the output. Output we will be using the keyword, or we will be using that print, right? We will be using print. And for input, we can just either use input or accept. So inside the parallelogram, you can mention the wherever we need input and wherever we need output. Okay. Now the next symbol, which is not used, it is not much used, but if you are having lengthy, even if in your answers sheet, if you are not able to fit in the flow chart, you can use a connector. So here I have kept one example. One connector is used at the end of the flow chart. Actually, this is one flow chart starting from this start symbol, ending in this end symbol, but we are not able to fit it in the one sheet. So we are making a connector. Inside the connector, they have labeled it as A. So wherever the next connector, which is labeled as A, it will be continuing. So from here, it actually means that from here, the line is connecting to this. So we are just providing a connector to connect to separate flowchart. Sometimes there may be some functions which will be called. So function, user-defined function, you can write a separate flowchart, and wherever that function is called, you can use a connector to connector. Connectors is used in more complex flowcharts. Okay, and connector symbol will be connecting two separate elements. Elements here means the flowcharts in two separate pages. So you can use a circle for that and mention the name of this connector. So if you have two or more sub functions, you can use different connector names. Okay. Now comes the decision box. Decision box shows the conditional operation. So based on a particular condition, if you want to change the flow of the program, you can always use a decision box. So this will be dividing the program execution into two paths. Until now, we had only one path starting from the start symbol. But if you are giving a decision box, you can either take a left path or a right path. Sometimes you will be giving it as left and the middle one, no, down. So either you can, so it will be always having two paths, either the yes path or the no path, or you can either name it as true or false, depending upon the condition what we have mentioned inside the decision box. So based on any of the expression which you are giving inside the decision box, sometimes it will be a relational operator, or we will be giving while, do while, and for loop and all. No, based on a particular relational expression, we will be either taking a left path or a right path. Or you can mention the one of the path down also. So basically, you will be having two output or two paths which are starting from the decision box. One will be towards the which will be indicating the true condition, and the other one will be our false condition. So there will be one incoming flow line into a decision box, and there will be two flow line which will be going out of the decision box. So one example I have kept, if the decision, the condition given in the expression, which is mentioned in the decision box. Now, suppose no, we are checking whether the value of A is greater than B. Suppose no, if I have assigned A is equal to 10 and we have given B as 15, then which path it will be taking? Answer in the chat box. We are checking in the decision box. All should answer. If A equal to 10 and B equal to 15, which path it will be taking and what will be the output? So you can just give yes path or no path and what it will be printing, right? So if what it will be checking inside the decision box, whether A is greater than B. Our A is 10. It will be checking now whether 10 is greater than whether 10 is greater than 15. So you know 10 is not greater than 15. So which path it will be taking? It will be taking the no path. So it will be printing the value of B, right? So now it will be printing 15. So likewise, any of those conditions, either you can mention it as yes or no, or you can mention it as true or false. Now onwards, like I am not able to see that. Okay, what happened? False. 10 is greater than. Okay. Okay, so this will be our use of decision box. In the next slides, we will be starting with the writing of an algorithm. First, we'll write a pseudocode, write an algorithm, and convert into a flowchart. So be careful. You should be knowing what should be the symbols you should be using, and send me all today's notes. All the flowcharts which I am showing now, you should be drawing and sending it to me, and I'll be giving one homework also. So the rules for drawing the flowchart, all the basic shapes or the symbols or the boxes should be connected by flow line. Got it? Whatever symbols and boxes we are using for drawing the flowchart, it should be connected by flow line, and sometimes we'll be using connectors also in case we are dividing it. Okay, if we are cutting and showing it in 2 pages, then all the boxes of the flowchart are connected by flow lines, and it should show the logical connection between them. Flowchart will be flowing. Most of our default method is to draw the flowchart from top to bottom. Got it? The flow should be indicated from top to bottom. That means start symbol or the start terminal should be at the top and the end terminal should be at the bottom. All flowchart should start with a start terminal and should end with an end terminal. So these are the rules. So the example 1, write an algorithm and draw a flowchart that will read 2 sides of the rectangle and calculate its area. So when we write for the answer max question also, we will see what is required for finding the area of a rectangle. To calculate the area of the rectangle, what are the things which we need? We know it is a rectangle, so we need the length of both the width
Length
and
into breadth.
the length into breadth. So we can either mention as width or breadth, no problem. So we need the measurement of 2 sides of a rectangle. So we will be writing accept the if it is max, we will be checking the question itself, whether they have given the length of 2 sides. Here we should be getting from the user, right? We are writing a program, means we should get the input from the user. So we are writing a program which is if it is for all such cases. Now our problem is to find the area of a rectangle. Whatever be the rectangle, we should be finding the area, right? So we should be always writing an algorithm. We studied also, we should be working for all instances of the same problem. So we should be accepting the input from the user. First time I want to find the area of a big rectangle, I should be giving the sides of the or measurements of that rectangle. Second time when I am running to find the area of a smaller rectangle, means I should give the measurements of that smaller rectangle. Got it? So here first step should be accepting the measurements of 2 sides of the rectangle, width and length or breadth and length. Then calculate. In the second step, we should be calculating the area by multiplying the measurements of both the sides, that is length into width. Then you have to print. So what are the symbols which we will be making use in order to draw the flow chart, and also what are the steps which will be required in order to write an algorithm. First example I will show you. So for here, in order to, as I told, pseudocode will be just informally we will be writing in English. So here algorithm will be making it somewhat in a formal language. We will first mention the name of the algorithm for which we are writing this algorithm. And then, as I told, input, what is our expected input and what will be the expected output should be clearly mentioned. If you are giving only the length and width or length and breadth, then only I'll be able to calculate the area using this algorithm. Got it? So what is our algorithm name, and then what is our expected input into this algorithm? What will be the expected output? What is our output? Output will be the area, right? That has to be clearly mentioned. Got it? So it has to be clearly mentioned. Then we will be giving the steps. So the steps should be clearly mentioned, and you can start with the first step as start and end the algorithm with the end. So step 1 start, step 2 will be input or accept, you can use input the width and length. Then in the third step, we will be doing the calculation, that is finding the area, calculating the area by multiplying the length into width. You can either use equal to also, no problem. So this is just assigning the right hand side value into the left hand side variable called a. So area will be having the value if you multiply the length and width. So if you are having a rectangle with the length 10 and width 3, it will be multiplying 10 with 3, and 30 will be the area which is assigned to the variable a. In the next step, we will be printing the area of the rectangle, and then we'll give end. So as I told before, in order to the flow chart is nothing but the pictorial representation of an algorithm. So you have to start according to the rules of the flow chart. You should start the flow chart using a start and the end terminal. So we have to write we have to write start in the terminal symbol, which is a rounded rectangle. So we mentioned start in a rounded rectangle. Then in the second step, we will be writing the input, right? All are listening or what? Okay. So you will be writing the input in the what type of box? It is a parallelogram, right? We will be using a parallelogram to get the input. You will be getting the input for the width and the length. Then we are doing the calculation. Third step is a calculation. So you can write it in a rectangle. So in a rectangle, we will be using all the expressions, or this is an expression because we are multiplying the length with the width with an operator, which is multiplication operator. So we are assigning, if you are using equal to, or if you are using this assignment symbol, we will be assigning, right? All those which are involving assignment or an expression should be given within a rectangle. So this is known as a process box. After that, the next symbol will be the output onto the screen, which you have to mention again in a parallelogram. In this simple flowchart, we didn't use any decision box. So this is just showing the steps one by one. So after going to start, flowland takes you to the next one, then flowland takes to the next symbol, like that. So hope everyone has drawn this flowchart and written the algorithm. So next one you will be doing by yourself. Write an algorithm and draw a flowchart to convert the length in feet to centimeter. We are accepting from the user the length in feet, and we are converting it into centimeter. All are listening? So here our pseudocode is accept length in feet. Then in the second step, we will be calculating length in centimeter, which is nothing but length in feet multiplied by 30. Then in the next step, we will be printing the length in centimeter. So what will be the algorithm for this? What should be the name of the algorithm? We will be writing the algorithm name as, all should be completing today's notes and sending to me in my personal window. Don't put it in BCA group because many faculties are there in that. It's only for the official information. Okay. Here conversion from feet to centimeter. Our algorithm is this algorithm which I have written down is meant for conversion from length in feet to centimeter. So what should be the input? We should clearly mention the length in feet should be the input, and output will be length in centimeter. So the step one will be start. Second step will be input length in feet. The same thing, if you understand only, we will be able to convert into a program. So be careful, no? Like listen carefully. So these steps, after teaching you the next chapter, which is the decision making, I'll be moving on to the program. So these algorithms will be first converted into our programs. Okay. So in the next step, we'll be having one assignment, and as expression value being assigned to the to a variable. So here length in feet is multiplied by 30, and it is assigned to the variable to length in centimeter, which I am using a variable called LCM. So the print length in centimeter, and then the last step will be end. It's not LCM, length in centimeter. Okay. So the flow chart is, we will be having a start and end terminal. Without that, we can't draw a flow chart, right? The second will be our input we are accepting from the user. So it has to be shown in a parallelogram. Input is always shown in a parallelogram. The next step is again a calculation and an assignment statement. So we are doing it in a rectangular process box. The next statement is again an output statement which has to be given in a parallelogram. So which has to be outputted onto the screen. It has to be given in a parallelogram. So input and output will be giving in a parallelogram. Again at the end we'll be using a AND terminal. Now the next program which we have to do. So the next one, if anyone is if you have any doubts, you can always message. Okay. So to convert this, what we have to do, convert a temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius. What we have to do, the first step will be in order to accept, or read the temperature in Fahrenheit. We should get an input, right? Fahrenheit temperature we should get. And then we have to calculate the temperature in Celsius using the formula. This you should be knowing, right? 5 divided by 9 multiplied with the F minus, that is temperature in Fahrenheit minus 32. We'll be getting the temperature in Celsius in the variable called C. So we'll be printing the temperature in Celsius as C. Got it? So now we are writing the corresponding algorithm for the pseudocode which we have written. You have to name that algorithm. If you are finding it difficult to write the algorithm, you should let me know in the chat box. You are supposed to write the algorithm by yourself. Understood? So here, these are very simple. If you are thorough in this, the symbols to be used, then only we can move on to the next step. These three are very simple, right? We have to write the algorithm name, that is convert the temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius. This session will get over within a minute or less than that. After that, after 5 minutes, you have to rejoin again. I'll be taking